Alrighty, welcome back to the book of Revelation, and we're going to continue from chapter 11. I want to start off with the woman and the dragon, but it starts off chapter 11, verse 19, and then we'll go on and finish up the other 17 verses in chapter 12. Now, this is some of the stuff that's a little complicated. Remember the book of Daniel, it helps explain some of this. But like I said, all the way through this, keep it simple. Don't get dragged down back alleys that you don't need to get into at this time. Let's keep it simple. This one should not be too hard to understand because we're dealing with symbolisms in this. So we'll try to keep this simple and it's self explanatory if you don't try to get too complicated in this. So let's get started. Okay. The woman and the dragon. And the temple of God was open in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices, thunderings, and an earthquake, and great hail. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, this is the nation of Israel. Symbolism. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. We know these are angels. And did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. We know this is Christ. And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. What do you mean he ain't joking? It's dead serious. And he ain't taking no baloney either. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman, we know this is when Jesus ascended to heaven. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. What happens? The great tribulation. What? So what are we seeing at the fifth seal? We're seeing the abomination of desolation. We see Antichrist receives a fatal head wound, miraculously recovers, and he becomes the abomination of desolation. He desecrates the temple in Jerusalem. He stops all sacrifices. He changes times. We see the false prophet take place. We see the mark of the beast start taking place. We see the martyr of the saints. We see the 2 witnesses show up, the 144,000. And what do we see also? We're seeing these things take place. For we know the 2 witnesses show up. A lot is happening in 1,260 days. So we're seeing here what happens here is that as soon as this takes place, there is a place prepared for those who flee to the mountains will be protected. Okay. We know that Satan is the one ready to devour the child. So we see the woman fled into the wilderness and had a place prepared of God. So we see the remnant of the nation of Israel that flee to the mountains. There is a place prepared for her safety. Okay. We know the woman is the nation of Israel. 1,260 days. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. So we know this is Satan. And prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So they are kicked totally out of heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a great or loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accursed them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. So we see great persecution for the nation of Israel. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time from the face of the serpent. So we know that's 1,260 days, 42 months, 3.5 years. So this seal is very important. We see a lot of these events taking place all at one time. We know that when he becomes the abomination of desolation, Israel is gone into the mountains, or she's cast away to a place of safety where she is hidden. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keeps the commandment of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Not too hard to understand. Symbolism. The woman represents the nation of Israel, with the man child being Jesus. He's called up to heaven. We see there was a war in heaven with Michael. We see that Satan and his angels, 1/3 of the angels that went with him, they lost. They're kicked out of heaven permanently. We see here that Satan is upset because he can't get to them because they're hidden, so he's going to take his wrath out on the remnant of her seed, which keeps the commandment of God and have testimony of Jesus Christ. Not very hard to understand. People make this complicated. Keep it simple. So let's go do the outline. Hopefully we can clear some things up if we need to. Okay. The book of Revelation, chapter 12. Let's do the outline. The woman, the child, and the dragon, verses 1 through 6. The woman with child, verses 1 through 2. A great sign appeared in heaven, in which the woman is clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, a garland of 12 stars on her head. Being with child, she cried out in labor and pain to give birth. The dragon ready to devour the child, 3 through 4. Another great sign appeared in heaven, a great fiery red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 diadems on the head, with a tail which drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven to the earth, 1/3 of the angels, standing before the woman ready to devour the child soon as it is born. So we know Israel, we know the great red dragon is Satan. The stars are talking about is 1/3 of the angels. The child is born, verses 5 through 6. Outcome of the child and the woman, verses 5 through 6. A male child is born, who is to rule all nations with a rod of iron, who is called up to God and his throne. We know this is Jesus. We know he was crucified. We know he was taken to be with Father on his right side. Okay. The woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, where she is fed for 1,260 days, 42 months, 3.5 years. We know this is nation of Israel. Satan is thrown out of heaven, verses 7 through 12. Before this time, Satan still had access to heaven. What was he doing? He was going before God. He was accusing us day and night. Okay. Satan thrown out of heaven, verse 7 through 12. A war in heaven, verses 7 through 9, between Michael and his angels and the dragon and his angels. The dragon and his angel did not prevail. No place was found for them in heaven any longer. The dragon and his angels were cast to the earth. The dragon identified that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world. A loud voice in heaven, verses 10 through 12, proclaiming victory for Christ and his brethren. Salvation, strength, the kingdom of God, and the power of Christ have come. For the accuser of the brethren has been cast down, who has accused them before God day and night. How the brethren overcame the accuser by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives to the death. A call to rejoice, along with a warning. For those in heaven, rejoice. For the inhabitants of the earth see, woe, knowing that he has only a short time. The frail attempt to persecute the woman, verses 13 through 17. The dragon's attempt to persecute the woman, verses 13 through 16, cast to the earth. He persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, nation of Israel. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time, 3.5 years. Safe from the presence of the serpent, does not say where. The serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, hoping to cause her to be carried away. But the earth helped the woman by opening his mouth and swallowing up the flood. Don't know what that is. The dragon's intent to persecute her offspring. Enraged with the woman he cannot reach, the dragon goes to make war with, now this is verse 17, to make war with the rest of her offspring. The rest of her offspring are identified. Those who keep the commandments of God, Jews, and those who have the testimony of Jesus Christ, Gentiles. So you see where we're brought into this. Anybody who tells you that the church has replaced Israel, run, Forrest, run. Get away from them, false teachers. I don't know where they get off with why the church has gone anti-Semitic, trying to say that we have replaced the nation of Israel. No, we're not. We are a grafted in vine. We're still part of that. Okay. So I hope this was made simple. It's not, nothing so far has been so hard not to understand. Stick with the Bible. What does the Bible say? Doesn't matter what man in his commentaries, opinions, and feelings are. We make it complicated. Keep it simple. Okay. Now I'm going to finish from there, and we're going to go on to chapter 13. Okay. Book of Revelation, chapter 13. The beast from the sea, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. This is in the book of Daniel. If you have any problem with this, go back to the book of Daniel. This is totally explained there. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. This is the Antichrist. We know the 10 crowns are the 10 kingdoms. So I'm not getting the rest of this. Go back to the book of Daniel and see that this, I'm just keeping it simple. This is a description of the Antichrist. And we see here, and upon his head was the name of blasphemy. We see the beast. Who are the beast? Well, the 4 what? Kingdoms. Persia, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. We know the legs was the first part of Rome, and we had the feet with 10 toes, which is a continuation of the nation, or we should say the Roman Empire. Okay? Go back to the book of Daniel. It's all there. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast, the Antichrist, the abomination of desolation. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Fifth seal, abomination, desolation. We're seeing here a perfect